So we're learning Geras HaKodesh, and Baruch asked some very good questions, and on the WhatsApp, and I'm very happy to entertain such questions, although they're not relevant right now for the text. But it's good to see that the mind is working, Baruch, and you're into it, and you're making me be into it more. And I did find a comment yesterday that there is, of course, an association between the last letter in Kunter Saccharin about davening properly and all that, and what we're going to learn today. You see, the letters were written at different times, and I surely don't have a good understanding of when this was written, that's written. It's not really written, so that's why I don't have that information. Different scholars have tried, to place dates on this and that, and some of that I've done as well. But I can't say with surety. So I can't give you. You asked the question. I could. If the Alter Rebbe here in the Geras HaKodesh speaks about davening, I'm going to learn in a moment about davening, why does it repeat it later, right? Or, is it a repetition? So maybe that what he wrote later was actually written the same time. I don't know. So let's for now just leave it and go on. So we're on page Kuf Chaf. And we're learning here about the impact of Torah Sheba'al Peh on a person's emunah. And we learned yesterday that the Moznayim, it says in Eshes Chayil, Shleim HaMelech, Chogra B'oiz Mosneha, she girdles herself with the strengthening the loins. So this is what we're learning now. The loins bring the head and the body to where it wants to go. So it connects both. But the Alter Rebbe goes even further than the actual text in his explanation that the ois goes on Torah Sheba'al Peh, and that through Torah Sheba'al Peh, in the spiritual sense, one is able to have their emunah permeate their logic. That's the theme of this first part of Geras HaKodesh. You understand? Emunah, Avram, faith. I said yesterday, we're not talking about a meager faith. We're talking about deep faith, what we call faith in the transcendental God. We're not talking about someone who has a crisis in their life and they rely on faith. That's not the faith of the neshama. The faith of the Jewish soul is more profound. It has nothing to do with a crisis and such issues. Faith is transcendence. So the question is, if faith is transcendence, what is the addition of Chogra B'oiz Mosneha? She girdles herself with strength to make the loins even stronger. I thought the loins are strong. The loins is faith, emunah. And this is what the Alter Rebbe's Chiddush here in the Geras HaKodesh is. That there is the emunah of the soul, of a person's neshama, and there's the emunah of God as God is reflected in the person. And there's no comparison between the two. Because at the end of the day, even emunah, even faith, that's transcendental, is transcendental of you, of us, of man. And as long as it's associated with man, there's a limitation. So it's hard to understand it, but conceptually I think we could understand it. That it's a faith, it's a transcendence, but it's a transcendence that is limited by the human being who has that faith, including the Jew, including the Nefesh Elikis. You ask yourself, Nefesh Elikis, godly soul, what can be greater than it? You know what can be greater than it? Hashem, in Torah. The way Hashem puts himself in Torah is a greater experience of the transcendence of God than faith is from its own perspective, from the neshama as it is in a Jew. Why? Because the way faith is, with emunah is, at the end of the day, from the nefesh elikis, it's nefesh elikis shebecha, within you. So it's limited at the end of the day, Hillel. Torah is God's. Torah is Hashem. So when we talk about a transcendence coming from Torah, it's totally transcendental. It's God. That's, in a nutshell, what we're going to learn right now. And that's a chidush, and that's a novelty. Let's continue. And just one more point that Baruch was asking about, and again, we're going to learn it soon, briefly, and that's expressed specifically not just through Torah not through Torah Shebiksav, but Torah Shebal Peh, and within Torah Shebal Peh, within the oral Torah, Halacha Shebetorah. Why halacha? He doesn't elaborate here, but the Rebbe Rashab has a series of Maimorim where he talks about it. Very important Maimorim. It talks about this concept, halacha k'moisei. Halacha takes the essence and brings it down to real life. It takes God, who's transcendental, and makes of God practical in your life. Until halacha, Avram, one opinion says this and another opinion says this, right? Is it all Torah? Yes. But guess what? The fact that there's two opinions and it's unsettled and it's unresolved and we don't have a bottom line, that means that's not the deepest experience. The deepest experience is when it comes down to poil mamish in actuality in halacha. So people look at Jewish law as restrictive, right? Avram, you hear it so many times. You're keeping Shabbos? Oy, you can't go to the ball game. You can't play bowling. You can't pick up the phone. What we understand from Torah, especially the way Chassidus illuminates Torah, that Shabbos is the greatest experience of God through the limitation, not excluding the limitation, because the limitation is the proof in the pudding. If you can't experience Hashem in the limitation, you have no God. You don't have the real God. You have a God of your imagination. You have a God of limitation. But to have the essence of God, what we call in Chassidus Baruch, Atzmus, the Atzmus expresses itself specifically in halacha. So this is why we have Torah Shebiksav, Torah Shebal Peh, written Torah, oral Torah, and within oral Torah itself, halacha. Let's go to the text now. It's the middle of page Kuf Beis. Hine emunah zu. It's smack in the middle of the page after a period. Hine emunah zu. This emunah nikra b'shem chilas b'snayim is called loins. Davar hamaymid u'mekayim esarosh. The loins support and give strength to the head. Hu haseichel. This is the mind. Hamizbeinin u'mayimid das, which contemplates and delves deeply with the mind into the greatness of the infinite Hashem. We learned that actually yesterday in all three levels of Olam Shor Nefesh, which the first letters of the three words is an acronym for Oshon, right? The smoke, the Har Sinai, Kulei Oshon, the mountain was full of smoke. Oshon is a Rosh Tevis. Ayin, Olam, Shin, Shana, Nefesh, so. And because Hashem has such great kindness and wonderful and wonderness, and He loves and He cares for us so much, and He says that we are His close nation, and we have the opportunity to cleave, to attach actually to Hashem, as it's known from the Chazal, the sages say, Yofa Sho'achas, better to have 1 hour, b'tshuva ma'asim toivim b'elam through tshuva and good deeds in this world, mikol chai olam haba, than the entire lifetime of the world to come. 1 hour of helping a yid here and doing a mitzvah here on earth is greater than the entire Olam Haba. Fascinating statement by the sages. So it says the Alter Rebbe, why is that? Shehu rak ziva, because Olam Haba, the world to come, is only an emanation, a reflection, mibchinas hanikra shchina, from the level that's called the divine presence, the shchina hasheichin, that rests v'nivra b'yud, and was created through the yud of God's name. Echad mishma yizborich. It's one yud. It's one little letter yud of God's name. Aval. Conversely, tshuva ma'asim tovim, doing tshuva, doing good deeds on earth, not in Olam Haba. Mikarvin Yisrael avim shebashamayim. You don't just get a little yud, yaini. You get kiruv to our Father in heaven, mamish. Lemilhusai, to his essence, v'atzmusai, his essence, his etzem, kaviyochel, morpholically speaking. P'chinas Ein Sof mamish. You're mekurev to the infinity of God, Ein Sof mamish. God's height, his radiance is on the earth and the heaven. Right? That's only a height. A height, Yaini, is a splendor. It's a reflection. It's an emanation, but it's not the essence. But then we have, when you make a bracha and you actually do a mitzvah, you get the essence. Like we learned earlier, quoting the posuk, as water is reflected through the water. Your face is reflected on water, right? So too, through a mitzvah, it's an actual connection. And then, if it's only a comprehension, then you derive from this understanding intellectual feelings of awe and love. Oi, next page, 204. Tivim, or more natural ones. These are the different levels of Av and Yira that we explained from chapter 43 through 51. Causing us to scream, to shout with our heart, to pour our heart to Hashem. Or another level called the coals of fire, the great flames, having a strong yearning. And after having a yearning, we return to normalcy, to have fear of God in your heart, and to have busha, to have humility, because you recognize God's awesomeness. And that refers to the left side, which is pushes aside. You min the karevis, you bring close with the right, and you push away with the left. So he says, as it says at Matan Torah, Vayarahom, the nation saw the revelation, Vayanu, Vayamdu Maracha, they trembled, and they stood far away. It's too scary to come here. They were scared. V'hein pchinas hazroyos, v'haguf shebenefesh. So we have three things now, Chevra. We have the head, the body, and the body has the zroyos, the arms. Right hand is chesed, left hand is gvura. And then we have the nefesh, inside the soul. So through all of this, there's an involvement of the head, the body, i.e. Ava and Yira, the midos, and the soul is animating it. So the Alter Rebbe is saying that the Mosnayim, the loins, strengthen the head and the arms, the body, and bring it to a place, to where it has to be. And now he continues. Look, let's read the text and then we'll talk if we need to. Me, who gives the power, koyach, is the strength. Lepidus Bosnayim, to the loins, Hamidulakayim Aroish Vazrois, to make strong, to make stand, and to sustain the head and the arms, who Asik Velimud Halochish Hilchais B'Torah, the law within Torah, Halacha, within Torah Sheval Peh, the oral Torah. Shehu P'chinas Rotzon Elyon, this is the revelation of the supernal will, the Reisim Chochma, the Hinafkis. Torah itself, on a lower level, comes only from Chochma. Aval Mekayra, Visharsha, its source, Ulamayla P'chinas Chochma, it's transcend and is way greater than wisdom, Chochma. Who Anikra, and this is what we call Baruch B'Shem Rotzoin Ha'elyon, Baruch Hu. In other words, Torah, it says in Zohar HaKodesh, Mechochma Nafkis, it comes out of Chochma. That's the lower level of Torah. But the truth is, Torah is much higher. It comes from Ratzon, God's will. And the support is, as it says, Katsina, Ratzon Tatrena. Like a shield, God's will surrounds you. K'atara, like a crown, Shihi Al HaMoichen Shabarosh, that goes up on top, on the brains within the head. You put the crown, Yoini, on top. As we know, as it's explained in Kabbalah and Chassidus regarding the verse, Eishes Chayil Alteres Baila, a woman of valor is the crown of her husband. Guys, we have to remember that who is our crown? Our wives, okay? We're great. We're bright. But we accomplish all that. But Avram, who is the crown? The crown is the Isha. And so it's true with the Torah. There is the Torah, the way Torah is already Chochmah. But Torah really comes from a much higher place called the Ratzon. So yes, the male is very, very significant and does a lot. And I see Hillel has something very important to say. I can see it all over his face.
My phone's slowing down.
What?
I was just going to comment that I rely on my wife to remind me of this.
Yes. Well, the thing is, Hillel, it should be so ingrained in you. You don't need her to remind you when you wake up. You should just feel it. Spiritually, Dalfin Rebbe is saying, what is the practical application of the Ratzon of the crown? It's halacha. And that's why it says, someone who studies halacha every day is promised to have olam haba. That's why in shul, right, the rabbi or gabbai, just a person gets up and tries to say halacha many times. Because of this chazal. What's the point? Halacha within the oral Torah is the most significant. So you only make sure that at the Karel Bach Shul, someone says one halacha every day. It's not a big thing. 1 line, 2 lines, just a halacha. Let's go on. Now he goes back to the pasuk. She girdles herself with might. Mosneha, her loins. Ein oiz el Torah. When we say oiz, remember we learned yesterday, ein oiz el Torah. And Baruch asked me a good question. I told him it's not the same idea. He asked about, I forget, another quote, another idea, and I said it's 2 separate ideas, I believe. Ela Torah shehi nesenes koyach v'oiv. We're talking about the Torah that gives koyach and might and strength, l'pchinas masnayim, to the loins, hachagurim umuluboshim, that are girdled and are invested bo lechazik uvilamitz zroyasel, to support the arms. Hebra, the arms on the body, weigh on the body. If your loins are messed up, it can't support, the arms fall. So the Mosnayim, the loins, play a significant role in the support for the arms, which in our case is what? The love and fear. So what does it mean? But he says, Chogra bi'oiz mosneha. That means there's something. This means that the loins give support to the arms, but it works the other way as well. There's strength given to the masnayim. So what we're learning is not just that the loins give support for the arms, but ultimately we want the nefesh, the essence, the ratzon, Baruch, this is the continuation, the hemshech. The ratzon should give and permeate the loins. That's what I said before, with this emunah that's not generated by man, even by the soul of man, by the neshama of man, but by Torah, which is God. Let's continue. Everyone in their own way, that their arms, i.e., their midas of chesed and gvura, be it intellectual or natural, are all strengthened. And they also accomplished, the loins accomplished that the head, the verse says, it tasted it. What is referred to toama? What did it taste? Ice cream. Avram, what did it taste? Ice cream. Jelly beans. Torah. Toama. The taste of Torah, kitayv, which is good. Sachra, it protects it. It creates the protection. It surrounds it and protects it. It's in a bracket, so we'll go on. Now comes another part. Now, the question is, when is the right time for this activity that he described here? Says the Alter Rebbe, the right time is for the chizuk for the time when we strengthen the arms and the head with the emunah who shas tfilas hashachar. It's during the morning tefillah. Now, everyone davens here. So look, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain to us now how important davening is and what we should be doing davening. Shehi shas rachamim. You want to know when it's the time of rachamim? It's during chakras of the morning chakras. At that time, there's an auspicious time from God's perspective, Hillel. The auspicious time of the God's supernal will, which shines in the world, is during your chakras, not at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It's during chakras. Okay, listen, if the Zman is till 12, fine, but you know what I'm saying. And he says, V'lazois, oise avakish, right? What do we say? Oise avakish, right? In the David Hashem Mighty that we're saying now. This, we say, this is what I request. Mevavakshe Hashem. More, he brings of the searchers for God. Yavinu, they'll understand. V'yaskilu, and they'll intellectualize. Yachdav together, v'liyos l'zikoram b'neim, and it'll end up being a memory between their eyes. Kol mashakasafti aleim. You guys remember everything I wrote to you Eshtakad last year. The Alter Rebbe says Bechlal. The Alter Rebbe the year before, in the year 1787, he wrote to them a letter all about davening and how it's important to daven and daven with kavonon and daven slowly and daven, all about davening. So the Alter Rebbe now in this letter of 1788, a year later, says that, and again, now he started, this letter began because he's thanking and writing about the Siyum HaShas. But in this letter, he refers back to the letter that he wrote a year ago where he wrote to them about tefillah. And the reason is because he says, what I'm writing to you now about thanking you for doing the Siyum HaShas, you should continue. And the virtue of Torah says, and when will you experience it? During davening, which I wrote to you about last year. That's how he goes into the section of davening. Yes, Hillel?
I'm just not, it's going by a little faster. What's the zos in that sentence? The time of davening, the strengthening of the emotions in the rosh.
No. He's saying, I ask you to think about this idea that we spoke about, the Masnayim and everything else, during davening. In other words, because davening is the auspicious time from on high, it's the Eis Rachamim, the Eis of the Ratzon Elyon. I'm asking of you to to daven with this thought and this meditation, because then you're doing it at the right time. In other words, to meditate on this thought, you can meditate anytime.
On the Muna and the Rosh.
Yeah, but it's not. But Hillel, it's not. It's everything that he said and more. In other words,
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Right.
He said the time to do everything we've been talking about, of the bringing it to the world of Asiya.
Yeah.
All that
is Shachris, exactly. Is Shachris, right. And so now he's going to talk about Shachris. Once he starts telling us this is the right time, he even though he wrote about it a year before, not in connection with the Siyam Hashas, he just wrote to the Hasidim about the importance of davening. Here he begins writing it in conjunction. The letter begins with the Siyam Hashas, and so then he goes over and he says, you know what? You know when that will be experienced at the greatest is during Shachris, which I wrote to you about last year. So now he takes the opportunity, even here, the rest of the letter, to talk about tefillah. Let's see what he says. More specifically, it's not just that this is the right time, it's the right time for having kavanah, focus and intent. Kudaliba, from the depth of your heart, Yom Yidrashun Hashem, every single day you search your Yidrashun, you search for God, b'chol liba, with all your heart, b'chol nashim, with all your soul, v'nafsham tishtapach kamayim. You hear that? Your soul, your heart should pour itself out like water, whether it be with tears or laughter. I mean, but it should be the experience of what's called in the Svarim Makdoshim, hishtapchus hanefesh. The word hishtapchus comes from this root word shefoch, to pour. Hishtapchus hanefesh means my soul pours itself out in prayer to you. The Alter Rebbe quotes that, tishtapich kamayim, it's a part of a verse. Noichach pnei Hashem, facing Hashem, u'kamayim razal b'sifri, ad mitzuya nefesh. The Chazal say mitzuya nefesh means till your soul ceases, your soul leaves you. You're so involved and engaged in davening, and with hishtapchus hanefesh, it's as though the soul mitzuya nefesh. Let's continue. I want to finish today because it's not that hard. It's more simple. Va'ata apam, top of page Kuf Gimel. Va'ata apam, and now, hineni Yosef Sheinis Yodi. I add a second point. This part of the Igeres was written when the Alter Rebbe came back from Mizrich. B'toisves beer, I add ubakosha, and I request kfula. Look at these words. Double. My request is double. Shetuach, spread out like shatiach. Uprusha, also spread out. It's three words which mean I'm really requesting this of you. Please, please, please. With Nekol an Sheshleimenu, all men of peace, meaning Anash, the Chabad brotherhood of Chabad Hasidim all over, Hakrevim, the ones that are near me where he lived, Varachoikim, those that are distant in other places in Russia and Ukraine and elsewhere. L'kayim aleim, that you should fulfill the following: Shekol Yemei HaChoil, all weekdays throughout the week, L'yord L'fnei HaTeva Habali Asokim, people who are running to work should not go over to be the Baal Tefillah. She'ein lehem p'nai kol kach, because they don't have so much time, right? It's the worker's minion. We all know about that. In and out. Says the Alter Rebbe, I understand. But you don't go over to the Yomit, because you're going to do a whack job. You're going to knock it off so fast. Wrong. That's not the way you daven. You have to run. Do what you have to. Okay. And he says, who should be the Bali Tefillah, the Chazanim, the leaders? Those that have time. Oyam Alamdim. Those Balabatim. like you guys in Bet Shemesh who are not working morning hours, so you're not in a rush. You work, whoever works, in more American hours, so you don't have to rush in the morning. Oy hamalamdim, the ones who are teachers of children. So they start a little later, I guess. These is like Kainel Jungelite, who rely on, excuse me, their parents' table. That's an expression meaning they fund you. Your parents fund you, so you don't have to run to work. All these three types of categories and people can lengthen. They can be marich, b'tfilas hashachar, in morning tefillah, erech shoh mechza. Approximately an hour and a half. You heard it from the Baal Tanya. Now you know why not many want to be his chassid. He's talking to the Lubavitchers here and he says, I would like you to daven for an hour and a half a morning shachris. I think we have one shul here in Borough Park that does it, Emunas Yisrael, Anyway, Lefachos called Lefachos, Yaini, at least an hour and a half. Call you Meisachoil every day of the weekday. Mehem Yeh Hayoyel Uvnei HaTeva. Those are the type of people who will spend an hour and a half leading the congregation. They should be the ones going over to the bima, to the amud. Al pi hagoyrel. Now, what if you have all you guys, right? So which one? You make a goyrel, because each one of you doesn't have to rush. So you can spend an hour and a half in tefillah. So we need about tefillah. So you make a goyrel, a lot. Or based on what most people want. They want Avram. For some reason, they like Avram's davening, and they want Avram. Even though Hillel's there, and Baruch's there, and I'm there, and everyone's there, they like Avram's davening, so they decide the majority likes Avram, so Avram becomes the Baal Tefillah. Okay? But who Yosef Elov B'Soviv? Look at the Avram. I don't know where you're disappearing to, but the Alter Rebbe is giving you now a message here. You have to know, because you're gonna be doing this one day. You, Avram, the leader, the one who becomes the Baal Tefillah, he has to gather around him, B'Saviv Loi, Kol Asmuchim Al Shulchan Avim, all the others that are living off their parents' table, all the teachers, Sheyechulu Laharech Kemoisei Kemoyu, who can daven an hour and a half like he davens at the Amud. They should be around him. B'Bal Yeshuna Nova, and don't change this at all. Wow. So in other words, we have a shul. Many of the people are rushing out. Says the Alter Rebbe, rush, do what you have to. Okay? I'm not judging you. But he says, a minyan has to daven slow. Approximately an hour and a half at least. So you have to have a Baal Tefillah who does that, and the Baal Tefillah should gather around him 9 others at least who daven that way, so that it's felt and heard that this is the mainstay of the minyan, not the people who are running out. That I haven't seen yet.
Not just to protect him from the Balavatim and want him to go faster.
Yeah, right. Well said. Ach, b'Shabbos is v'Yom Tovim, on Shabbos and on Yom Tovim, shegam kol ha'bal hasokim. Oh, then even all business people, all the big knockers who are making the deals and the shmeals, now they can't do it. It's Shabbos, right? Yesh lehem penai. They have time. B'shas ha'kosher, it's the right time. Laharich b'tfilosum, laharich to lengthen their tefillah. B'kavonas libam, with kavona v'nafshim Hashem. So they also on Shabbos should be davening for at least an hour and a half. Now mind you, we're talking about Shacharis. We're not talking about Kriyas HaTorah. And we're not talking about Musaf. We're talking about Shacharis, an hour and a half. I want to make that clear. It doesn't mean, because you say, Shabbos, every shul davens 2.5 hours. Yeah, that's with Kriya and Musaf. We're talking about a Shacharis of an hour and a half.
That's not a problem.
Okay, but in Karlbach, it's not a problem. Good. Says the Alter Rebbe, upon all the Balabatim on Shabbos, mutal b'yesef seif yesois, the responsibility for this lies more on them. It says there, 6 days you work. The 7th day, Shabbos to Hashem. It's a day only, all for God. So you Balabatim who work during the week, the whole idea of working for the week, during the week, is that Shabbos is Lashem. So if the Kaili man and the person who doesn't start work till later and he has an hour and a half to daven, it's no chiddush. But you guys don't have the time, so the obligation on davening an hour and a half chakras on Shabbos lies more on you than on them. Therefore, they too, the Balabatim, the business people, should go to the Amud, the Shabbos, the Yom Tov, al pi Goydel, again based on a Goydel, or based on the majority vote, like I wrote last year in the letter to you. The last paragraph on the page. The Alter Rebbe says now, he doesn't stop. The Alter Rebbe is relentless. You should all know, and he's telling them, he's writing a letter to them, and he's telling them what he's going to do. It's my thought and approach that God willing, I will send to all the minyanim. I'm going to send meraglim, spies. You hear that? B'seiser. You won't know who's a spy. You won't know who's coming on my behalf to let me know how davening went. Leida leidia kol mi she'efshar eloi. They will let me know, these spies, whoever was able to daven this way. And those that have the ability to lengthen himself and to look deeply into davening. And they're lazy. They could do it. But they're lazy. They don't want to spend an hour and a half in davening shachris. Says the Alter Rebbe, when they will let me know, these spies, who these people are, Yunidin berichuk mokem. They will be judged and distanced far away, meaning I won't let them come see me for yechidus and for blessings, whatever. He doesn't say I'm going to give them. They're going to be berichuk mokem until they change their way. We just need to. Nitche b'shtei yadayim, very harsh words. I'm going to push them away with 2 hands. Bevoi lepoi, when they come to me, l'shmoya divrei Elokim chayim, to hear, which means chasidus. They come running, they have to hear a maimah from the Rebbe, right? They have to go to a tish. I will know whether they're coming from their shtetl and their village to me, and they did not fulfill this obligation that I'm putting upon them to daven an hour and a half, at least chakras, for Balabatim on Shabbos and for everyone else during the week. And they won't be able to just come here and get a free ride. But the Alter Rebbe concludes with nice. And from the negative, you understand, hey, the positive. Those that will listen will have sweetness. The Tov and Birchas Tov, they'll have the blessing of good. And the only good is Torah. So Rabbi Say, it's a chapter that on one hand it's hard to swallow, because I asked, I did daven an hour and a half today. Okay. I'm like a balabas. I had to be at the computer now, right? But I still feel it's an excuse. So get up earlier. I got up at 5, get up at 4:30. But the point is, on Shabbos, do I daven an hour and a half chakras? And the Alter Rebbe is saying clearly, this you can't. You can't play games with this letter. He says what he says. I always say to Chevra, I don't care if they're in Chabad shul, in many others, I say, for sure you would never be a Chabad chassid, a chassid of the Alter Rebbe. Why? Because you're not going for chakras in a half an hour. or an hour. And he says here an hour and a half lefochis, at least. At the same time, the Alter Rebbe knows that it's we're so burdened that it's difficult, and at the end of the day, I'm sure he has mercy on us. But this shouldn't be taken lightly. And I know some of you are probably thinking, oh, I go into a Chabad shul and they daven so fast. And guess what? There's no excuse. My father and my shver over shul, my father, who Baruch Hashem today turns 87, and my shver made a special minyan of 770 at 7 a.m. Next time you're there, my father still is at that minyan where they daven slow. I'm not sure they daven an hour and a half, but they daven much slower. So Hasidim, now there were always Chabad Hasidim individually who daven for hours, but here we're talking about Isser. We're not talking about the individual davener. We're talking about the minyan. Do you understand what he's saying here? He's saying a minyan of Shachris in a Chabad shul is not allowed to be less than an hour and a half. That's what he's saying here. Whatever, and he's emphatic. He's emphatic. He's going to send spies, and the spies will tell him who's doing this and who's doing that, and then he either will accept you and let you come hear the mimer, or he's going to distance you. Sounds pretty gvurdik, huh? But, the Alter Rebbe felt he needs to get the message across, we're all nice, kulam ahuvim, kulam berurim, kulam kedoshim, and then we do what we want. The Alter Rebbe says, I'm not going to let you do what you want. You want take spirituality, ruchtis from me? I want something from you, because the Eibishter wants that. Being a chassid, especially being a chassid of any Rebbe, and in this case the Alter Rebbe, there's demands on you. It's not just this, game. I do what I want, when I want, how I want. That's unfortunately, today we have a lot of that Yiddishkeit in the Frum community, in the Hasidic community. I was Shabbos in Lakewood and all around in a Hasidic area. It's beautiful. But after davening everywhere, the Kiddush, the Chont, the Kishke, everyone's out. I was left myself. For me, it was personally good. It was quiet. I was able to daven. Quiet for another hour, an hour and a half, But I'm saying it's like, where are you rushing to? You just had Kishke and Chont. Didn't have Chont, just Kishke, not Kishke, no, the Kugel. And where are you running to? You just stuffed yourself up. What are you running home for? Why don't you spend an hour learning Gemara? No, everyone has to go out. Complete Beis Medrash. When I was finishing, one Jew came over to me who had a talis on, and he kissed my hand. I have no idea who he was. One Yid in a Beis Medrash that can hold 300 people. Beautiful, beautiful Beis Medrash. So I'm just saying, there's been this change in we have, and I think what we understand from what the Alter Rebbe is writing, 200 years ago in the shtetl, it wasn't this way in a shtibel. It wasn't this way. It was probably more like in the Karabach shul. People hanging out, schmoozing, farbringing, saying l'chaim, but the ikar is davening. The Chabad way is the ikar is to daven. And I'll tell you something. You get hungry. So in Chabad, we permit the eating a little coffee, mazonis, vegetables, a little cereal. You should be able to daven for 2-3 hours. You should be able to sit, and so it's all right. It's all right. Again, I don't want to get into halachic issue, or your Rebbe, your Rav says otherwise. Do as you see fit. But in Chabad, the idea is to have koyach. Yes, Hillel. What do you want to say? Well, he finished. Okay. Chevra, have a great Shabbos in Elul, and we'll see everyone on Shem on Sunday. Sei gesund.
It's your birthday on Shabbos.
Dalel, you should. How old are you? 25? How old are you? 25? Are you yet 50? 49. One more year, and it's a 50th.
You're a baby.
He's a baby. Hey, we need your.
2 days of 48. But
yeah. Okay. Baruch's probably younger, so it's good to have. It's good to have young blood. Sei gesund. Good Shabbos. Take care, guys.
Take care.